We have on the line now Paul Wagner from Fox 5, who's been doing some very interesting reporting on what we're learning about the response of first responders when that incident began. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, guys.
Glad to have you. All right, so you've looked at some documents that talk about what happened when the fire department arrived on the scene. What did you learn?
Well, since this happened, of course, we've been having to report all of what we're learning through sources because no one's telling us anything on the record. So through some sources that wanted me to know exactly what happened inside that tunnel, I was leaked a document yesterday, and it's basically a first-hand account from firefighters on what they discovered when they got down there.
And what did they find?
Well, the document says that when the first rescue squad got on the scene, they got down into the platform area there, and there was no civilians at all on the platform, indicating that everyone had already been cleared out of there. They found 4 Metro Transit officers standing at the front or entrance to the tunnel. They were on the phone with the control center for Metro, and then those firefighters were then waiting for word to actually get down and enter the tunnel. When they got into the tunnel, they said it was absolutely pitch black with smoke. They couldn't see the hands in front of their face. And they walked about 200 feet down the tunnel and didn't see the train until they were right on top of it. What's interesting about this document, something we hadn't heard before, is that the firefighters pounded on the train and told the passengers to open the door. And the passengers yelled back through that they could not. So these firefighters used a key to open the door. The question here is whether anyone actually tried to find the lever to open the doors, because we've seen videos now from inside the train where we could hear the conductor telling the passengers over and over and over again, do not open the doors, I'm trying to reverse the train. So it's a question as to whether or not anyone actually tried to open them, couldn't find the handle, or they were just listening to the command from the conductor.
Can I just follow up on one thing? What about the radios that the firemen had?
The radios were not working inside the tunnel. We actually reported that Tuesday night. This document confirmed it. And what I understand is that there are antennas inside the tunnel, and those antennas went down about a week ago and had not been repaired. So the firefighters could not broadcast out of the tunnel. And, in fact, this document says that the rescue squad was on the train for about 10 minutes before additional help arrived. So the question is, did that prevent, were the radio troubles keeping additional help from getting down the tunnel? Was that also part of the delay?
When we saw this story, of course, listen, just a few days after the attacks in Paris, it's Washington, D.C., right off the mall, several federal buildings right under L'Enfant Plaza train station. Many of us thought, oh, God, what if this is a terror attack? Given that, and if something like this were to happen in Washington, D.C., we're counting on all of these different emergency responders from different agencies to be able to handle the situation. Don't they have drills that make these things go a little bit smoother, Paul Wagner? I think people are a little unnerved by this.
Well, that's a very good question. We know that Metro has a facility in which they can train first responders on how to get into the tunnel. I did speak with a longtime Metro employee yesterday who did not want to go on the record and didn't want to come on the air, but questioned whether or not there had been any large-scale training exercises done on the system in recent years, and he couldn't remember any. But that's not to say they didn't happen, because I didn't really investigate that, but he was questioning that.
And let me ask you, our guest is Paul Wagner of Fox 5, and I understand this morning you were going to have a conversation with Mayor Muriel Bowser, and you were going to touch on the issue with Metro, and apparently she had something better to do. She didn't show up. Have you gotten any word from the mayor's office as to what that's about?
I don't, guys. That's something I had not heard.
Oh, all right. Sorry,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
Sorry about that, Paul.
It was just tweeted out by your news organization, so that's how.
I haven't been in, gentlemen. I haven't been in the newsroom yet. So if that happened, I'm not aware of it.
All right, so let me ask you that you did talk, though, about the fact that nobody wants to go on the record. Are you having trouble with that? I mean, all of a sudden we got the Bowser administration in office, and she said it was going to be a new day. It was going to be a whole change in the way business was done in the district building, and all of a sudden it seems that there's been a clampdown on your ability to get information.
Absolutely, and here's an interesting dynamic, guys. Think of it this way. Remember when the jet crashed in Gaithersburg a couple of weeks ago?
Right.
If you recall the coverage there, you had the fire department, the police department right out front, and they were basically explaining what happened, telling the media everything they knew. And I checked with Pete Perringer from Montgomery Fire yesterday, and he confirmed that the NTSB never got in their way and said, "You're doing a fine job. Keep informing the media." So what's going on here? There was an interesting tweet from the NTSB yesterday saying that there was no gag order. There was somebody was challenging them on Twitter about giving out information, and they said there is no gag order, but we have to release information in conjunction with the other jurisdictions. So the question is, why have they decided to clamp down on this? So because of that, we've had to go through sources in order to get the information out. And there have been very brave people that are willing to leak this information to us so that we can understand what happened.
Well, listen, one other thing, it has to do with the exhaust system. As I understand it, and I'm a layman here, but as I understand it, there are huge exhaust fans built into the metro system that are supposed to be activated at times when there's a lot of smoke in the tunnel. What are we hearing about whether or not those exhaust fans worked?
What I can tell you about that is on Tuesday night I did report that the exhaust fans were not operating immediately, and then in this document that I received yesterday it confirmed that, and in fact says that when the rescue squad got into the tunnel, the fans were not operational. The smoke was so thick they couldn't see the hands in front of their faces, and that it didn't kick in until the rescue was actually underway. So that's a question as well.
Yeah, it's a huge question with regard to whether that fits in with what their procedures are. I mean, you'd think that, again, it seems like all of these things are in place and all these procedures are in place, and none of it actually worked when we needed it.
Yeah.
Well, there was a video that came to my attention last night that's on YouTube. I don't know who posted it, but it's about 10 minutes long, and you can hear the sequence of what the conductor is telling people inside the train. At one point, he says that control is telling him that he's going to back the train up, and that they're just trying to move a train further back from the L'Enfant station. So the question is, was Metro waiting to get a 911 response there because they thought they'd be able to back the train up? So that's a question too.
Well, listen, thank you, Paul. I really appreciate you keeping us updated. We may call on you again as you develop more information. Appreciate you joining.